Hello and welcome to another episode of Heroes and Thieves, where each week we create a world using 3 nouns, and the only limit is our imaginations. I'm Greg.
And I'm Michael.
Let's get to it. All right, for this week, our first topic.
Ready.
Wind.
Wind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Talking that stuff you can't see, but it's there.
Okay. Interesting. You can't see, but it's there.
Yeah, it's just wind.
I like that. All right, let's dive into that. First thought I have, building a world off of wind. Initially, my mind goes to wind power. Like everything is powered by wind. So there's windmills, there's wind turbines, which I think is the same thing.
I think so.
Wind power, like Zeppelins aren't really wind powered, are they?
Zeppelins? No.
It's like helium.
No, they're powered by fire.
Fire, hot air.
Hot air.
I thought it was a helium balloon that just floated and
a Zeppelin
pushed itself forward.
Was it? Is that why we don't make them anymore? Because
it's extremely dangerous.
Extremely dangerous and toxic to everybody in the world. I think that's, yeah.
Okay, well, maybe that's not very wind powered, I guess.
But I mean,
this is a tough one. What did you have?
So my thought originally was maybe not so much like this world is based on wind, but wind is a major player in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought, basically take just your stock off the shelf fantasy world.
Okay.
But make it so that it's windy all the time. And I'm talking borderline tempestuous winds.
Like a Tempest world.
Yes. So not just like, hey, it's really windy, we're in like Nebraska. I'm talking it affects our living.
Okay.
So you don't have to get too in depth on how wind creates the world or anything like that, like recreate the wheel of worlds. But I'm just saying, how would it affect a world in the first place?
I got it. It was really on the Tempest part. That's the hook that I needed.
Okay. All right.
A Tempest world where there's this constant tempest happening, like on Jupiter or Neptune. Have you seen those? There's like constant storms all over the planet.
I've never seen them. No, well, maybe I have.
I've been there. I've seen them myself.
Yeah, geez, let me know.
No, I might be just making that up, but there are storms all over those planets. And I was thinking the same thing on this world. There's these constant tempests like enveloping the entire world, but there is the eye of the storm, which is the safe part of the world. So at any point, I don't know if this storm is moving or if it's a consistent, like the North Pole is the eye, and there's always safety in the eye of the storm. So people are always trying to move north and getting to the northern part of the world because it's safe there. But obviously there would be, obstacles and things that keep people away because the people that are there don't want more people coming in. There's not enough room, all those typical factors leading to people being oppressed.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of oppression in this, depending on how big your eye of the storm is. Because in our real world here, the eye of the storm moves pretty quickly.
Right, like storms. I mean, like, what is an eye of the storm? It's like, is this when an actual like hurricane is happening? Like not hurricane, like tornado, right?
Yeah,
like a tornado is happening. Is that the eye of the storm, like the center part?
My understanding, I'm no weatherman, but my understanding is that the eye of the storm, yes, it's the center where nothing really it's pretty calm. It's still windy and, probably crappy to be in, but it's pretty calm compared to what's around it.
Yeah.
Because that's where the vacuum or the wind is actually formulating is there. But when you're in the center of it, I think people say that it's a very eerie type of calm and silence
because there's
destruction,
massive destruction happening around you.
Yes, and in only just minutes, the destruction is going to move, and you're going to be destroyed.
Yeah,
if you don't move
with it. This known sense of we're going to get destroyed.
So yes. So I would say in terms of a world, I like the idea of the eye of the storm not moving.
Not moving.
Because having something move, unless it moved extremely slow,
Yeah.
it would be impossible to live. It wouldn't be
Right.
inhabitable.
I mean, this storm, if it envelops the entire world, the Earth, then it seems like it would move slowly.
Yeah.
Or if it moved at all, it could always just, be on one side.
Right.
Be whatever we want it to be.
That is true.
So I guess I like the idea of it being in one spot. That
I'm
makes
good
it
with that.
defensible. That makes it
Yep.
attackable. That
Yep.
makes it, you can siege it if you wanted to. But then that leads to the question, is everything outside of the eye, it can't be that terrible. Like, people
Right.
live there. Yeah?
I would say so. It can't just be barren wasteland.
Yeah.
I think it would be people live there, but maybe not people. Maybe something other or a people that have adopted and evolved to live in those conditions that are maybe not Tempest-like conditions, but pretty close.
Okay.
So, and they are the ones I think who would. Why would they be sieging the people living in the eye?
Yeah, if you've gotten used to living and you've evolved as a people to be used to it, I feel like going out of your habitat would not help you.
Wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. So
Unless
like,
there was something there you wanted.
yeah, unless they had resources. But like, I guess if you're constantly in storm, like every day, imagine every day being stormy and like raining, clouds, wind. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, not great.
And so the only people that don't experience that are the people in the eye.
What if this storm was a recent occurrence? So not something that the people in the storm had, the years, the eons to adapt to and whatnot. If it was a recent occurrence within their lifetimes and they had to adapt right then and there. And so I'm thinking, what kind of buildings would they build? Or because then I think they would have a reason to try and get to this giant eye of the storm because they don't want to live in this. They know what living a good life is.
Yeah.
But until some world-ending storm, not world-ending, but world-changing storm happened, they were fine. So now they want to get to that eye of the storm. So
Okay.
how would they survive until then?
So I'm thinking when you said like how they survived, I immediately thought of like how their houses and structures are. I'm guessing this storm would have happened and it's like always going the same way. You know how like storms usually go the same way from the coast. They come in and like the wind usually blows the same direction.
Right.
In this, the storm is constantly like evolving like clockwise around the earth. So everybody in their own locations always gets wind from the same direction. So I imagine their houses being like built at slants, like kind of like half triangles coming out of the ground, and the wind, going nicely over the top of their little slanted houses. So all their buildings are like triangle shaped or like slant shaped
towards the direction, or their openings away from the direction of the wind.
Yeah, so it just blows right over without like any friction. It just goes right over the top, like a jet stream over the top of a wind.
Well, that makes me think that they wouldn't even build their houses. Well, they'd still probably build their houses like that, but they would choose to live in a place. They would dig out a whole area.
Like by a mountain, it would make sense.
Yeah, where the mountain itself would be that slanted angle they were looking for, and they would just live under it.
Yeah, so people could adapt pretty easily to the storm happening.
Yeah.
All the time. If it's like, it's not like super extreme, but it is enough to like be scary and you don't want to be out too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they could just adapt and not move to the north, I guess.
But here's one thing.
Could be these tribes of people living.
Here's one thing I'm thinking of though is years long wind like that, I'm pretty sure would kill your opportunity for like farming.
Yep.
Or a lot of necessary things would be gone because of that.
Yeah.
And so I think they would have to not only adapt, the physical structures they live in and whatnot, but they would have to readapt everything. And I think, it would change, the course of, rivers, oceans, change the currents, all the things like that.
Uh-huh.
One thing that I thought of, though, which for some reason this really interests me, but the people would naturally start to just be yellers. Just yelling all the time, right? Because it's always windy. And like when you go outside as a child, I think it's science. Maybe I'm just making this up, but I'm pretty sure it's scientific that if you go outside and it's windy, kids get hyped up. They get really amped because the wind in the air, things just get, at least I did. Like,
do you remember leaning into the wind?
Yeah.
Like the wind holding you up?
Yeah.
I think after like the 3rd grade, I never did that again.
Oh, well.
Maybe I just got too big.
I still do it.
Maybe the wind's not strong enough for me.
You just haven't had a windy day yet.
I still lean into the wind.
I still do sometimes. Well, I see those videos of people, or is it like New York or something like that? Or maybe London. I don't remember. But it's so windy that they have to lean into it, and they can almost go some pretty extreme angles.
And it still pushes them over the other way.
Yeah, they still go flying the other way.
Yeah, I don't live in a place that's possible.
No, I don't think so.
Kind of miss it.
The wind?
Leaning into the wind.
Leaning into the wind.
Yeah, not the wind itself. The wind I could do without, but...
Miss leaning into the wind.
Leaning into a good wind? That's a feeling.
Nothing like it.
You don't get it anywhere else.
But I want to get back to the yelling. This fascinates me. How do you think... Okay, so you start yelling because you have to. Because you can't hear people anymore. That's how bad the wind is.
So it'd be like constant, like, it'd be like you're always working on a project with your dad.
Yeah.
It's like, huh? Huh? What?
The wrench!
It'd be a lot of that. It just, what'd you say? What's that?
Come again? I can't. Yeah. So these people would get, no, here we go. These people would become amazing at lip reading.
Okay.
Right?
I guess that's a skill that we all need.
Well, hold on. Hold on. They can lip read. Therefore, these people are master eavesdroppers.
This is their powers. They eavesdrop.
This is how they overthrow governments.
So the people in the eye of the storm, they don't know. Like they get these foreigners coming in and they're trying to talk about them, but they know what they're saying.
You can't whisper about these guys. They know everything. They can see it all.
Interesting.
Imagine how useful they'd be on a football field. If you're not hiding your clipboard,
looking into
your face on your
helmets.
clipboard,
Yeah.
I can see everything you're saying. I know what play you're calling.
Ah, technology, a hand in front of the face. Got me
They
again.
got me.
The secret tech.
I can't beat that. These years of development are gone.
Okay, so maybe other than like lip reading, they would have heightened senses of like, would their hearing be better, you think?
I think it would be worse.
It'd be worse because they constantly have this wind sound.
Yeah,
all
you
the
constantly
time.
have the wind ringing in your ears, like holding a shell up to your ear and hearing the ocean. I feel like
I can't stand that.
they would just Why? What's the problem with shells in the ocean?
The sound, having that sound when you're not holding a shell up.
Right, and
That
that's what
is
I'm
awful.
saying. That's what it would be.
Yes.
Like a kind of like a form of tinnitus, I guess, but it's just the constant
Ugh.
ringing of like wind in your ear, and you've been yelling for the past 20 years, so your voice is hoarse and you can't.
Oh, I
really...
bet that would sound cool though.
That's what my first thought was. Honestly,
There's a sound.
was like pirates.
Yeah, well, I don't like the word pirates, but
Why not?
Because pirates don't sound cool. They're, "Arr, matey, I'm a pirate."
Okay,
That's
well,
not cool. Maybe it's just like really deep, scratchy, like.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying they have to say "yarg." I'm just saying
It would sound
their
cool.
voices are hoarse,
Yeah.
like they've been on the ocean, the windy ocean,
Like
their whole lives.
They were drinking water with bleach in it their whole lives.
sure.
It
Yeah.
just burned their throats out.
Yeah, it's just gone.
That's cool.
So I just imagine the type of people that these people would become. It would just be super interesting to me.
They'd be like rough
Yeah, they'd be a rough people.
people.
Yeah, but they had to be
Yeah.
because the sudden wind in their lifetime just changed
Yeah,
everything.
and it'd be like people who are on boats for a long time when they get off land. If these people ever get into the eye of the storm It's like they're always pushing left against the wind. They would have to like fall over if they get into a place where it's not
that's
windy.
interesting. So like, yeah, they're just always like balancing themselves.
Yeah.
Ooh, these people probably have core muscles for
I just
days.
thought of that. The core strength on these people.
Insane.
Yeah.
What can you do with that? I don't know.
With
Lots
core
of
strength?
crunches.
I mean, you could pick up things pretty well.
So would these people become physically just better?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when there's that struggle, you are physically stronger, right?
Right. You're just your day-to-day life just builds that.
Yeah, it's just built into you. Whereas people in the eye are like, they don't have that problem. They
Right,
don't.
they're just living a normal life like us, pretty
Their
much.
cores are weak.
Yeah. So they don't have the advantage.
Yeah, and
Except they can hear.
what the advantage is for, we don't know yet.
We don't know.
They just are at a disadvantage.
We have yet to get there.
But let's talk about the eye, because we've left the
we
eye.
kind of skip that out.
Like they are people in themselves. They have their attributes too. Like they're privileged, but are they? Did they battle for the eye? Where they just happen to be there and they're like, oh, I guess we're safe.
Well, yes, they happen to be, because we're assuming the eye of the storm is not moving, correct?
Correct.
Is that what we're going
and
with?
this is a somewhat recent occurrence.
Yes, within the lifetime of all these people, of an adult. Yes.
Okay, within the last 100 years, this happened.
Right.
Okay.
So it's very recent. We're still adjusting, but it hasn't moved. That's the important part, because they were there when it happened, so they were lucky to be there when it happened, but they had to defend it, because in the first 6 months, there was a lot of sieging going on. There's a lot of fighting for that territory.
Right.
The strongest people won.
Okay.
Which, was it the people who were there at the start? Because it could have just formulated over, a farmland or a lot of empty space.
Or a bunch of orphanages. Then it would definitely not be that.
Yeah. It's just a group of
A
orphanages.
bunch of children.
Yeah. How unfortunate is that? Sorry,
Kicking 'em
kids.
out.
You got to go.
How big is this eye?
That's what I was...
That's important to think about.
That is very important. I think in order for it to be interesting, it'd have to be big enough to fit like a nation of people. A sizable nation.
A nation.
Yeah. Because they're going to have every other nation attacking them to try and get in there.
Was the world state before this happened like just any fantasy world? There's different kingdoms and villages, and they're kind of like fighting each other off and on.
That's my thought.
It's just a generic fantasy world.
Just a generic fantasy world
until this happened.
Until the Tempest Break.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
I just TM'd that.
Name of the book.
There you go. You're welcome.
There we are.
Okay, so there's like typical happenings before this. There's magic in the world.
Yeah.
Of course people
is.
can use magic. There's wizards and stuff.
I think so. I like wizards.
Maybe not called wizards, but they use magic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Then there's magical beasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm just trying to paint myself a picture of this nation. Like, they still have their own perils inside of the eye, right? It's not safe. There still could be beasts. There still could be, like, a nation divided.
So you're saying, like, it's not just the eye, the wall of the eye isn't just one giant wall and it's just a nice, lovely city. That's not what this is.
Yeah, I'm
this
trying
is
to
a
make it
whole
seem
land.
like these people deserve to be here. Like, these people they have struggles. These people have earned the right, and they still fight for the right to stay here. They're not just, the chosen ones. They're
right. Yeah, they're not just privileged,
this.
like God-given, great people. No, they're...
Because other than the assumed attacks from outside of the eye, and at this point, I do like the idea that you just said about having a wall built around the outside. That's cool. A wall right along the edge of the storm.
That would be one of my first...
wall.
That'd be one of your first things to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to see that.
Build a wall.
Build a wall.
Would there be like a magical dome? Or are we not there with magic yet?
We could be.
Like, that's an idea. The whole maybe there's a dome. I don't know. The eye's already kind of like self-protected. It's not going to collapse.
Yeah, the eye creates the dome. I get. Well, do you think?
I'm going to say no dome for now.
No dome. Okay.
I don't want to think about a dome just yet.
Just imagine, the land itself was probably sieging this place because imagine being a cow
Yeah.
outside, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden Tempest starts. You go flying in.
Getting attacked.
Just all sorts of animals and livestock just being catapulted into this nation.
Yeah, like, yeah, and like even animals and like the magical beasts from outside of the eye, they also want to be in the middle.
Yeah, they
So
want
it's not just people they're fighting all sorts of things.
overpopulation.
Overpopulation, yes, but also like dragons.
Of people coming in, yeah, of everything.
Yes. There's a lot of problems for them. They're not just, living the easy street here.
I want to take what I said back though. Cows would not be flying in here because that's way too strong of a wind. I'm not talking that kind of strong wind.
It can't pick up a cow,
Right.
but it could maybe tip a little cow over.
Yeah. Some chickens will be able to fly very easily.
Oh, imagine all the new flying animals. Chickens.
Chickens.
Maybe just chickens.
Imagine turkeys coming at you. Turkeys flying
Squirrels.
is one of the scariest things. Squirrels.
Turkeys.
Yeah.
Turkeys are gross.
Okay.
Okay, so Tempest.
Interesting take.
Tempest World. The eye is safe, but not safe at all. It might be the most dangerous place to be.
It's safe, I guess, climate wise.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it's the most contested area. Like nobody wants to go outside. Nobody's fighting to be outside of the eye.
Right.
They're fighting to be in the eye.
Yes, they want to be in there.
So it is safe, but not safe at all.
Right.
I like that.
It's got a lot of turmoil.
Yeah. Great.
All right. You ready for topic number 2?
I am
Add a little spice to this.
so ready.
All right. In the same vein as the wind, I guess, not creating the world, but shaping how we view it. Next noun, books.
Books.
I'm going to need to get real creative here because books obviously are things that we read and we may learn something from them. But we're talking about a magical world. We're talking how can books shape things more than just enlightening you and being a great source of entertainment?
Okay, here we go. I've got a thought. And you're going to need to work with me on this one.
That's good.
Because it's not well thought out.
Okay.
But books are kind of like the driving tool for machines they're building. So you write a book that has instructions, and the book, like, you seal it with this magic, and the book becomes like the steering wheel for these big machines. So like books are like the engine of like things.
So
I don't know.
okay, so hold on. Let me paint myself a picture here. So basically your engineer is your wizard.
Yep.
Or whatever we want to call them.
Mm-hmm.
Your wizard who writes this book with a full knowledge of how this thing is going to work.
Uh-huh.
And then they give it some magic, some of that razzle dazzle.
Yeah, your little magic juice.
And they put it into this machine. Is the machine already built, or this thing mechanism already built?
I don't know. Or maybe it comes to be because of the writings in the book.
Yes.
And the book is now bound to that thing, and to destroy the thing, you must destroy the book.
Got to destroy the book. So the book is basically the heart and the brains, the soul of this.
Yep, but the book, okay,
machination.
so for it not to be completely invincible, the book has to be like close to the thing. There's a certain distance it needs to be able to power the thing it's supposed to be.
I was assuming the book would have to be in the thing.
Or that,
on the
yeah,
thing.
like it has to be like the heart of the thing is this book.
Yeah, the literal heart.
With like instructions of how it works. And if you didn't write down like how this thing attacks and how it moves and how it does everything, it doesn't know that thing. So like it's programmed like a computer program. Like if you didn't program it to do this thing, it won't do that thing.
Right.
It's not that smart.
Right.
It's like if the wizard only wrote down this thing of how to dig, it won't defend you from a thing. It'll only dig holes. It's a hole digger.
It's a hole digger. I like this concept because it kind of blends, the mystical, magical, as well as the realism, the engineering,
Yeah.
because
It still needs to be thought out. Someone needs to say, this is how it works.
Yes.
It's not just abracadabra, you have this fighting machine.
Right. I don't just, say a magical word and my imagination comes to life. I have to be able to describe exactly how this thing works in every facet of it.
Yeah.
So in a way, I mean, this wizard is a wizard not because of magic and just having some attuning in my nature to be able to cast spells or whatever.
Yeah.
He is a wizard, or she, because they've studied for decades and decades and decades and knows exactly how this thing will work.
Yeah. Or there's like two sides of the story. There's one person who is like, let's say this sword master who's been training on the sword for decades. He now writes a manual on how to be a sword master, and then it takes it to one of the imbuing people. And then that imbuer says, okay, I'm going to imbue this with magic now. Here you go. It's imbued. And then binds it to like the thing that it is. So there's the two-step, like there's the person who knows a lot and writes it down about their thing, and then they take it to this imbuer, whether that's like for a fee or if it's like for the greater good, they just imbue it. Mm-hmm. And then they have this thing now. I don't know where the connection is there.
So okay, so if we're talking, and we got to bring in the back to our world, the Eye of the Storm thing here.
Yeah.
If we're talking in the Eye of the Storm, we'll just stick with it, a master swordsman who is getting old.
Yep.
And it's time to retire, but this master swordsman has so much knowledge, and his last parting gift will be to work with this artificer or imbuer mm-hmm. to create a lasting mechanism that will defend this land in his absence.
Yeah.
And so they get together, they, pore over it for nights and nights and nights, maybe even years on this project. They finally come out with this book that has all of his knowledge specific to this thing that they're going to create together. Mm-hmm. And so this artificer imbues the book. Boom. What appears?
I guess that's the question now. It's like, is this the artificer is also like a builder as well as a magician? Like, does he build the actual device that it's in? Like, I'm thinking this thing would be like a steel humanoid thing with a sword, and the book gets placed in it, and then they imbue it, and it comes to life with like sword powers. Or does something like they imbue it, and then out of nowhere forms this like magical beast that has sword.
That was my original thought, but I kind of like the idea of a steel or some actual man.
Kind of like a robot.
Right, just with the soul of a...
With the soul. It's like wood and like iron plates clattered together mm-hmm. because this is, fantasy times.
Right.
The best they could come up with. And then it's got like this full suit of plate and a sword. And then they somehow put the book in very protected, very guarded.
Right.
Because that's its heart.
Right.
And then it starts working.
Right.
And this thing would be like autonomous, I guess.
Well, it would be autonomous according to what was written.
Yeah, so like you could write in there like you follow command of these people.
Right.
Like you have to do what they say.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that these books though, like this one book takes years and years and years to write, to edit, to make perfect, because it has to be perfect.
Yeah. Because this thing needs to work flawlessly, and you only get like one shot at this.
Yes. Right. And if it doesn't, I mean, it's just, I guess, like, if you're creating something and you realize when you're done that you screwed up at the beginning, you're like, oh, well, yeah. There goes that. So
yeah, you forgot to put in the line that says, don't kill your own people. And it's just going nuts.
Suddenly it's just murdering.
And it's like a master swordsman killing its own people.
Yeah, made of steel and stone or whatever.
So there'd be a heavy revision process on these books.
Yeah, that's why it would take decades. This is that's why I kind of like this idea, because these aren't just normal books. I don't even know if they have normal books. Maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Yeah, maybe book to them just means like heart of the machine.
It's the heart of the machine.
Yeah.
And the only people who know how to write really are these wizards, these artificers.
Yeah, it's kept in their like sacred like order.
Yeah.
They're the bookkeepers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and somehow they are also, I guess, yeah, like the storytellers or something that make these things come to life. But I like the idea of basically these golems or these
Yeah, just things that.
mechanisms. But even on the flip side, the people outside the storm also have access to these things.
I just was thinking about that, and you said Gollum. It'd be cool if like the people outside, they weren't as advanced in like iron tech,
right.
but they had like stones and sticks, and they built these like earth-looking golems that had the books on them,
Right.
and had like different abilities.
Right.
That's cool.
That would be, yeah, because they're more desperation, and so
It's like a nature.
their creations
things.
would reflect that.
Yeah.
It's not so much, they're not thriving, they're just surviving.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
their creations reflect that. It's not as polished, not as perfect, but they will still get the job done, I think. Or
Yeah.
they will create the conflict. But the books are what are the heart of these things. And there'd be an interesting conversation, I guess, about how you could fight them not just, hand to hand or whatever. Like, you don't want to take a sword against this 8 foot tall, like, Dwayne the Rock Johnson
Yeah.
with a master swordsman skills. I would lose every time.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's got to be a way where you can circumvent that if you're knowledgeable.
Yeah.
If you are like your own artifice or whatever, you can disassemble, or you can find like the one mistake in the writings where it's like we can bypass that, or we can exploit his weakness.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
that's kind of how I was imagining books. Like, how do they really shape this world? Because that would shape everything. We kind of touched on warfare, magic, religion.
Yeah, everything would be book based. It'd be like, oh, my maid is a book. It's not like a person. It's like a little box that cleans up for me. I wrote a book of all the stuff I do daily, and then I took it to the Artificers Guild, and then they charged me 100 gold, and I imbued it into this box, and now it cleans for me.
Yeah,
It's my book. It's great.
and I think in a sense too, they're almost kind of playing God, which is a really interesting thing to go down. So like the real master artificers because you're creating something, you're almost creating life. And I think if you are that expert at it, like, yeah, the normal artificer could do, I make cleaning products, or I can do this stuff. But if we're talking like, the real rogue one maybe, but like I can create new life.
Yeah, you could replicate a person in your book.
Yeah.
And like create that, which is interesting.
But then there would be the problem of like, is it really autonomous, or does it just think it is, or is it growing, or does the book write itself eventually? Like,
it's the whole AI,
it's AI
thing at this point. It's like how far is too far?
Yeah.
Like, when does it become sentient?
Yeah. Fantasy. That's all this is fantasy artificial intelligence.
Yes. We did it.
We've done it.
It's awesome.
That's it, folks. But I think it would be really interesting to see the warfare, because I like the idea of these who have like perfected it and they have the time because they don't have the wind in their face all the time.
Yeah.
Versus these desperate ones, like you said, like coming like real earthy, rocky, just sticks and stones, and how they would like what kind of contraptions each would make. I imagine somebody too can create basically like an airplane, I guess.
Yeah.
But like more fantasy, obviously. But like, I like the way that bird flies. I've studied this bird my whole life.
Yeah, I know how
I
it
can
works.
now write a book that will emulate that.
That's cool.
And that would be a breakthrough in warfare.
Yeah, and it's also up to their imagination too. Like,
in part, yeah.
Like inventors can be like, well, this is how I think like a jetpack would work. Like air boosting out from these tubes on my back. Mm-hmm. Let's try it out.
Yeah.
Like you could definitely do that, especially if there is magic in the world.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that, because what we're trying to do here is mix magic and science.
Yeah.
Because we're basically just describing engineering.
Yeah. But with a magical twist.
But with a magical twist.
That just allows it to work without like circuit boards and stuff.
Right. Which I think is fascinating to try and mix the two. But that also goes into, I think the religion would obviously be very based around that.
Yeah, it'd be like you'd worship these artificers. Like at some point, like they are the top dogs.
Yeah, they'd be the speakers of, the god or whatever that is.
Yeah, if it's like made up or whatever, like people are.
Right. So that would be something interesting to think about. But I gotta go back to, and this might bring more questions. But what started the wind?
That's also what I was going to think of and try to touch on.
We don't have to get into too much detail because that's like really in depth, but
yeah, that's like a story in itself. I don't know.
Just spitballing it. What do you think is it like from the earth, like Mother Nature's just angry and is like, I'm going to kill all these people? Like what's that movie, The Happening or whatever, where the plants start killing people?
Yep. That was it. The Happening.
Talking to a plant. No, I don't think we're going to do that, or would it come from a deity or something else altogether?
I was thinking like part of me wants it to be more sinister than that. Part of me wants it to be like that top dog artificer guild existed before. Like this whole book idea has been around forever. Like
right.
People have been making these things. That's why people outside know what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, proprietary to the eye. It's like, we know this, but there is a top dog guild that lived in the eye that said, you know what? We don't like anybody here. Other guilds around the world, we don't want them. They're not as good as us. We're the best. We're going to try to like lock them out. And they created the storm themselves.
Oh, so they had some master artificer.
They bound a book to the earth and said, "Oh, you are going to create a storm all around us, except for here."
That's a big book.
Yeah, so that's the thing. That's the thing of the world. Like there is a book that only these group of people know about, and it's like the super, super secret people, right? Like 3 people know about this thing, and they choose their successors every 20 years or however long they live,
right?
And then say this is the world book, and if it's gone, the storm will stop. And we will no longer be controlling everything.
We won't have the power.
Yeah. Like you need to keep this safe and to yourself. And there's like secret groups of like people who know about it that like defend the book at all costs. And like, don't let the word slip because then people will know what we've done and they won't like us.
And then we'll really be, pooched.
Yeah. So that's where I was hoping it would go. Like this is a dark design.
Yeah. Some really smart, really evil villain.
Yep.
Was like, I'm going to control the world.
Like, I'm going to take over the world.
And he did it.
Yeah.
Congratulations. He did.
Yeah. So now there's this everlasting storm until that book is destroyed.
Until somebody finds out about it. Until then, it's just a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. And that would be a book that I would read because that sounds cool.
The world book itself or the book about the book?
The book that's written about this world and like the story about the hero like discovering there is a book that does this.
There is a way to stop
this.
Like,
there's been a myth, that's going around, passed down through generations. There's a book that it's the world book.
Yeah,
and it's like,
could say,
no, it's not. You're just an old man.
Yeah.
And the people outside are like, huh? Book? What?
The yellers.
Talking about the world book?
They're too busy. Yarg.
Yeah. Oh, that's just all made up, Jimmy. Well, yeah.
Yes, they have old farm names in this world.
Yeah, that would be a
Jimmy
great book to read about this world that we're making.
I really like that. I like that dark, sinister secret that nobody knows because everybody just thinks like, oh, the god got angry at us and just started this wind. We're all intended to die, so we're just kind of giving up to hopelessness.
Yeah, no one would think like, who would do this? What kind of person would do this to ourselves?
Right. Nobody's smart enough or evil enough to do that. But joke's on you. Yes, they are.
They figured it out.
Yep. I like that a lot. That's a great start.
Yeah, and it's called Tempest Break.
Tempest Break.
It's coming out in 2 years.
Yep.
Look for it on the shelves.
November 2023.
Great book.
Coming to your shelf near you. Let's go to topic number 3.
Right, topic number 3.
Oh, this one's it's gonna be tough.
This is gonna destroy my book idea, probably.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's going to enhance it, but it might get a little muddled. But we're gonna do it anyways. Mirrors.
Oh boy.
And let me just start this out by saying I was thinking of mirrors again, just like we did with books. Get real creative, but I was thinking of mirrors as a form of transportation. Teleporting through mirrors.
Okay.
But you don't have to do that, but that was my thought.
That's cool. I don't know why I thought of Harry Potter just now, but I did.
Okay, well,
I don't think they teleport through mirrors.
I don't think so. I know there's a lot of looking in
There
mirrors.
is looking in mirrors, so like the mirror that tells your true desire or whatever.
I don't think that's not Harry Potter. Oh, yes, it
That's
is. You're
Harry
right. You're
Potter.
right. You're right.
Of course I'm right.
I was thinking mirror, mirror on the wall.
That's Snow White.
Yeah.
Also great.
Yeah,
But they don't
it's a
travel.
classic, but they
through
don't
those.
travel through it. But I was thinking
Mirror travel.
like traveling through mirrors.
It's cool because the idea of mirrors is like reflecting light. And like in this magical world, right, you could reflect your light, your image through the mirror to another place.
What do you mean by your image?
Like you. I'm meaning you. You would just travel through the mirror.
Okay, gotcha.
Like I'm just thinking of like how actual mirrors work.
Right.
That might be stifling me, but it's like
Sand that got, isn't it? Like sand that gets really ground down and then
Yes.
turned into a mirror,
yes.
which I think is fascinating. That people looked at sand and they're like, hey, I'm going to do something with that.
I'm gonna get it real hot.
I'm going to get it real hot.
See what
And I'm
happens.
going to be able to look at myself.
I'm gonna put this in the fire.
That blows my mind that we came up with that.
Well, I'm guessing it just turned into glass, and then they're like, well, if we like tint this one side of the glass, you can see yourself.
Still, I just think that that's amazing that we did it.
Somebody did it.
Congratulations, us
Congratulations, mirror guy.
humans, especially the mirror guy.
Who came up with mirrors?
You're a genius.
Okay, so aside from all of that, mirrors. I like the travel idea. Like mirrors can be bound to each other, and then one can be placed on the other side of the world
Yeah, that's
or something.
it's an option.
Um,
Because
That's-
you have to restrict it somehow. Not all mirrors, I think, would be able to do this. Not just your everyday household mirror.
you can't just walk into a mirror,
can't just walk through the mirror.
slam into the mirror.
I think it has to be a somewhat special. Obviously, it's got to be big enough, but it's got to be somewhat special mirror. I would say.
Like these are mirrors that people made, or is this like nature? Like there's a reflective thing that people
Ooh.
walk into. Like there's portals in the world somehow that have been there forever.
So they're basically. Well, now we're just talking portals. So I think we need to go
It's a
back to
portal.
man-made
It's a man-made
because
mirror.
it's a mirror.
Yeah.
You look in it and you can see yourself. It serves its basic function, but
And
Because-
you can. Okay, so first idea is travel.
yes,
That's great. I like that. I think the actual technicals don't matter a lot about how this works, but I like the mirror traveling. I also like the idea of capturing souls in a mirror. I've always liked that idea in a lot of horror stories. That's a thing where like
yeah,
if you look into the mirror, your soul's captured inside of it, and then you're like kind of stuck there. And then you can like, if someone else looks into the mirror, they can like see that person behind them, but they're not really there. They're in the mirror.
right. That's
You
a
know?
horror movie.
Yeah, you get the chills, thinking of it.
Yeah,
It's like creepy.
that is creepy.
Where you're stuck in a mirror. Like maybe these mirrors are like prisons or whatever for people that get caught, doing bad things. Like you're now destined to be in this mirror until your time's up or it breaks. Then you're dead.
Well, if it breaks, you're screwed.
Yeah, then you're gone. You can't come out because the mirror's broken.
Wow, that's a very effective jail sentence. You're not using any square footage.
Yeah,
of
there's
that.
no space. It's just mirrors, like a room full of mirrors. And like you can see the people in the mirrors and they're there and you can talk to them.
Just like a painting that's alive.
Yeah,
Just
but they
like-
can't come out.
They can't come out. No. And if there's an
Oh, I
earthquake,
wonder if you could put like a bunch of stuff in a mirror and it could like be a little world in the mirror.
like little Narnia world.
Like I don't know what's like. Is it just dark in there? Yeah, like Narnia. You step through. It's like a better world.
You're just creating your own world.
Yeah, like what? Yeah, like could you? Is that a thing? Like
Well,
escaping this world to go into your own and hope the mirror doesn't break because you're not outside anymore.
here's maybe you can do that yourself. Like you have the smarts and the wherewithal to make two mirrors, and they're connected, but you have to put one where you want it to go. So maybe you have one in your home or whatever, and then you have another maybe in this underground cave you found one time. And you
Okay.
can teleport there. I would still say it
So
has
it's
to
not
be
its
like
own world. It's just a
No.
different place.
yeah. I think it would still
So it's the teleporting still.
it's still a teleporting.
Okay.
But you can move it where you want it
And
to
you
go.
could put other people, like if you dug a hole in the ground and said this is now the jail, you push people through the mirror and they're in the bottom.
They're in the bottom. They're in the jail. There's a lot of really evil things you could do with that, but
Put it at the top of a cliff facing off.
yes, like, just trust me, it'll be
Just jump
fine.
off the cliff.
Well, can you see through the mirror? Like, or do you just see yourself?
If you saw through it, it'd be a window. It would just
be a
glass.
window.
It would
That's
not
right.
be a mirror.
So maybe in order for some safety mechanisms like a lock, as the owner of the mirror, you have some sort of ancient, phrase or word you can use to activate it so you can see through it. Otherwise, it's just a normal mirror. So not anybody can walk through it unless it's with your permission.
So you have to like say the word and then it becomes magical and then they can go through and then you say it again and it's no longer magical.
I would say so. To put some restrictions on this. Otherwise, it's just anybody can walk through that mirror.
Just in and out whenever.
Yeah.
There could be like public transport mirrors.
Could be.
That's always on. It's like this takes you from street 1 to street 5 and then
But you could still do that. You would just have a mirror operator who knows the
mirror
phrase.
operator.
Yeah. All aboard.
All aboard mirror 2.
Yeah, mirror 2. I'm going in. The reason I thought of this in the first place is because in a world that is now controlled by wind, you don't want to travel by foot. That's not fun.
Right.
And
But-
so
Like you don't want to, but the people inside, like they don't want to go outside. They don't have a reason to.
right.
So their mirrors would just be like, within their own
Yeah,
place.
to my front door from my bedroom.
The other mirrors would be more like tactically placed, like outside to in. They'd like sneak in somehow and place them inside so they can go in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And like if it's like in an alley where no one knows, they come out of the back and like
Mm-hmm.
dress nice. Like I'm in the city now.
Here I am.
Yeah, like sabotaging your grains.
I think there would be interesting uses if there were teleporting mirrors.
But they'd find you out instantly because the second you get in there, you'd be like, huh? You're one of those you're an outsider.
What are you talking about? I'm not a spy.
Yeah, so it's like
And your whisper is like my wife's whisper. Man, she cannot. Some people just cannot whisper. Hey, what's going on?
Yeah,
It's like we can all hear you.
it's telling my 4-year-old to whisper and he's still screaming. He doesn't understand.
He probably thinks he's whispering.
Yeah.
Some people just can't get the idea of like, all right, bring it down.
Yeah, volume down.
Whisper screaming is still screaming. You just like make it sound ashier or something. It's not whispering. I don't know. You're right. So they wouldn't make very good spies then because
No, because they're easily detectable.
because they're yelling all the time.
Yeah, I don't know the function of these mirrors really, other than like if they're transport based. Other than just being used within the city.
I do kind of like the idea of mirrors as like jails or prisons.
Yeah.
Because again, that's really sinister,
Like trapping people in a mirror.
but that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So maybe the idea of different maybe worlds or worlds within the world or something like that is maybe that's something to explore because I like that a lot. But then if there's a sinister use, there has to be a good use, which is why I was talking like maybe there's a mirror that goes to a really beautiful just part of the world where everything's calm, it's a paradise, and somebody just found it one day and they walk through it and it's just like, wow, this is my own little sanctuary. But maybe it's not in this world, maybe it's its own world. I'm not sure. But there has to be some sort of, other than just we use this mirror to house prisoners. There's got to be a good use for it too.
Yeah. I mean, doesn't have to be.
You're right. There doesn't have to be at all. You're right.
It's not a good use for everything we have in the world, in our world.
True. I liked where we were going.
Yeah,
There's a
I
lot
like
of
the
workshopping
jails.
to do on the
I
mirror.
like the soul trapping.
Yeah.
I like, or maybe that's it. Maybe your soul's trapped in a mirror and your body just becomes like this husk that just like operates. Maybe they can trap your soul in the mirror and then
use
put a
the
book
book.
on you.
That's
They
right.
book you up and then you're like, you become just this slave to them.
A mindless slave.
And your soul's in a mirror.
That's messed up.
That's messed up, but the people in the syndicate are messed up.
Mm-hmm. And what can they do with your then your soul becomes like a currency or something? Because most likely
Trading
your body is
souls.
going to die.
Yeah, of course.
But I would say that your soul stays alive. But then you're like, well, now I'm stuck.
Maybe you can use those souls and put them into a book and then put them in a golem.
That's what powers the books.
Put them in a golem, or it could power the book. You're right.
That's the magic that powers the book is the souls.
I was going to like you use that person's soul, like somebody buys this soul and then infuses it into a book that's placed onto like a stone golem, but it's you now. You are the stone golem now, and you have like your mind, your intelligence is in the stone golem, and that's your new body. So like you're effectively just, you know, a slave to another person because you are still bound by the book,
Right.
but at least you can move around in the world.
You're still in the world. You still maybe have your own feelings and
Yeah. So you never know when you're like talking to like this, you know, autonomous golem, or if it's an actual like person soul in a golem, because it's like everybody thinks they're the same thing. Nobody really knows that these are bought and sold souls.
yeah. Yeah. Or like we were talking about before, that master swordsman's getting old, and that's like his final.
He binds himself.
He binds himself. He's like, I want to live forever.
Yeah.
Or I just want to do good forever. Which, like, is that good or is that just like?
Sounds awful.
It sounds bad, but interesting.
Yeah. That's cool.
I like that.
All right. So our world is made up of wind. It's tempest, storm.
Yep, it's a storm all the time.
That was created unbeknownst to everyone by a book that was bound to the earth by these book powers that they have by binding written books.
Yeah, this evil artificer
Yeah.
came up with this great book that caused this storm.
Yeah. And there's an idea of mirrors used to trap souls as like a dark currency of some,
Yeah,
of
like
some
a currency or something. Yeah, some sort of power, like battery.
That's undiscovered until book 4 or something.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
It's
like it's one of those
shelf.
like deep lines that you read back through the books and be like, oh, I wonder if this golem here was somebody.
So he
You
knew
know?
all along.
Yeah, no.
That's why he cried.
Yeah, exactly. Like
was
you
his
look back and
father.
you're like, no way.
Yeah, that would be a reveal for a later book.
Yeah.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah, I like it. I like that a lot. That's a good one. And it's called Tempest Break. I named it.
November 2023. See you then. What?
Huh? This is the whole book. What? Rhonda, what are you saying?
Where's Jimmy?
All right. We hope you enjoyed listening to this week's episode as much as we enjoyed making it. As we all know, it takes a village to build a world, so we want to hear your ideas. Send an email to story@heroesandthieves.co. That's story@heroesandthieves.co with your take on this week's words, and your budding story may get a shout out during next week's episode.
That's right. Also, be sure to follow and subscribe on whatever service you're listening with to get updated on all the world building action. We would be so grateful if you helped us out by also leaving a review. Lastly, stop by our Patreon if you'd like to support the podcast and join us on this grand adventure. Thank you so much for tuning in and hearing us out.
See you next week.